Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. It's been quite sunny and quiet where I am, which is in Toronto, Canada. So I've been trying to sneak in a few walks and it's been good. We're all just trying to adapt to our new reality of not really socializing, which is gonna be hard during the summer, but that's what it is. I hope you all enjoyed the last video that I did on the forbidden foods, which are not really forbidden. And today I will be going over the remainder of the food that is beneficial for us during pregnancy, breastfeeding, as well as during preparation for pregnancy. So imagine you were a 6-month-old, okay? What would you feed that 6-month-old? Only the best, right? Nutrient-dense food, minimally processed, filtered water, the best, right? Organic produce, fresh produce. So I want you to think of your pregnant self as that 6-month-old. I want you to feed yourself the most nutrient-dense food that you can find. So what exactly do I mean by nutrient-dense food? And nutrient-dense food is food that is high in vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. And these are important for the baby's development. So this is why there's an emphasis on consuming nutrient-dense food. So apart from the liver, raw milk, and seafood that I had thoroughly explained in my first video, which if you have not checked out, you should. So apart from those foods, eggs are also quite beneficial and pretty packed in nutrients. While we can get protein from the egg white, the egg yolk is actually a powerhouse of nutrients, and that is because it is packed with choline, cholesterol, folate, biotin, fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, and vitamin E, as well as minerals such as selenium, zinc, and iron. Choline is necessary for the formation of neurons as well as the connection between these neurons, which is also called the synapses. And that is why it is beneficial in the early years of life, so that is prenatally until about 4 years of age. Studies also link choline to nervous system resilience, so it has lasting effects that is beyond those 4 years of life. Cholesterol is also important, and it's not only for the development of the brain and the nervous system, but it's actually important for the development of hormones. So how many eggs should we be consuming? So during pregnancy or while breastfeeding, in order to get the recommended choline amount, it is important to consume 2 to 4 egg yolks. And it's quite a wide range because people might be consuming choline in other ways because liver is also high in choline. So if you are consuming other foods that is high in choline, then you can have 2 eggs. But if you aren't, then you can consume up to 4 eggs and get the necessary choline amount. As for egg whites, even 1 is enough. So 2 to 4 egg yolks and 1 egg white is sufficient to get all of the nutrients necessary from the egg. I personally was consuming 3 eggs a day. I wasn't separating yolks and whites. I was just eating 3 pasture-raised eggs per day. And now that my baby is actually eating eggs himself, even though I'm still breastfeeding, I have cut it down to 2 a day because he eats 1 and I eat 2. So it still adds up to 3. Also, the vitamins and minerals are actually much higher if the eggs are pasture raised. If the chicken or the hen was eating grass, insects, and everything else, and was getting fresh air and vitamin D, then the vitamins and minerals in the eggs are also higher than the hens that are locked up in little cages and given whatever grain to eat. So if you can, pasture-raised eggs are preferable. If you can't, organic is also a good option. Butter is also another nutrient-dense food that should be included in a pregnancy diet. especially if it is butter from grass-fed cows. It is rich in cholesterol, omega-3, fat-soluble vitamins, which are vitamin A, D, K, and E, as well as minerals, which are selenium, zinc, iodine, and chromium. And all of these nutrients are important for the development of the baby's brain, nervous system, and the immune system. Butter is also beneficial for the functioning of the thyroid. In addition, butter is also high in arachidonic acid, and arachidonic acid is an essential fatty acid that is important for the formation of cell-to-cell junctions, and that is essential for skin health as well as intestinal health. So that means that you should be eating your butter if you want your baby to have rash-free, smooth as butter skin. The recommended amount is 4 tablespoons of butter per day. And when I say butter, I also mean ghee or kave. So that's 4 tablespoons of butter or ghee or /kave per day. In addition to butter, coconut oil should also be consumed during pregnancy and breastfeeding. And that is because coconut oil strengthens the immune system, and how it does that is it's by protecting it from infections as well as by nourishing the friendly bacteria in the colon. The recommended amount for coconut oil is 2 tablespoons a day, and that shouldn't be hard if you cook with the coconut oil. What I did is I actually put coconut oil in my tea and added a little bit of cream and turned it into a bulletproof coffee or bulletproof tea. And that's how I consumed my coconut oil. Of course, meat is also nutrient dense and should be included in our pregnancy or breastfeeding diet. Meat is not only high in protein, but it's also rich in iron, zinc, other minerals, essential fatty acids, and CLA, and these are all important for the development of the baby's brain, blood, nervous system, immune system, skin, as well as the intestinal wall. Having said that, I am not encouraging people to consume supermarket meat. I am referring to grass-fed, pasture-raised meat, and that is because commercially raised livestock is hardly healthy, and if you want to be healthy, you should be eating healthy animals. But don't stop at the meat. Save those bones and make yourself some homemade bone broth. I have a simple recipe for homemade bone broth on Instagram that friends have been following and I've had success. So if you want to check it out, the link to my Instagram is in the description box below. Homemade bone broth is beneficial to you as well as for your baby. It helps with the development of the bones, connective tissue, as well as the integrity of the gut lining. Bone broth is also rich in glycerin, which is important for the formation of proteins as well as for the development of the placenta. So it is important for the baby's development as well as the protection of the baby. Furthermore, glycine and folate balance out methionine. Methionine is an amino acid that is found in eggs and meat. And so when we are consuming a high amount of eggs and meat, we should also pair it with bone broth and folate-rich foods such as liver, legumes, greens, in order to dispose of the methionine, which could otherwise disrupt cell-to-cell communication. As for vegetables and fruits, we should make them more digestible by lacto-fermenting them. And this is done by allowing bacteria to eat on the starches and sugars in those vegetables and then producing lactic acid. Lacto-fermented foods are high in enzymes as well as good bacteria, and these are both important for proper digestion as well as for the immune system. If you are interested in finding out more about the use of good bacteria in our bodies, check out my recent Instagram post that goes over the different functions of good bacteria. But in terms of pregnancy, the good bacteria that we consume during our pregnancy is actually passed on to the baby because it goes from the gut to the birth canal, and when we deliver the baby, if we deliver vaginally, the baby then gets some of that good bacteria, which then flourishes in the baby's belly and pretty much primes their microbiome. This is again only for those that are born vaginally. For babies that are born via C-section, they don't get that initial boost of good bacteria, so they could develop intestinal discomfort. This is also why a lot of colic babies are mostly C-section babies. Mine was a C-section baby. Unfortunately, things didn't go the way we wanted, and I had to get an emergency C-section, and my baby was colicky for over about a month and a half, which is, I guess, not that bad, because I know a lot of people have colicky babies for 3 months or so. And so when we have a C-section, it is even more important that we consume lacto-fermented foods while we breastfeed, because then we can pass that good bacteria to the baby. You can pretty much ferment any vegetable or fruit, but the most common or known lacto-fermented foods that you may have heard of are kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut, kombucha, and pickles. It is always best to make your own lacto-fermented foods, and that is because those that we're buying commercially from supermarkets either have quite a bit of preservatives, or they are pasteurized using high heat, and so the enzymes have been killed off. Again, I know I keep pointing back to my Instagram, but it's because I also share a lot of things on Instagram. So if you are interested in seeing how I make my homemade yogurt using my Instant Pot, as for lacto-fermenting vegetables, here is a quick video on how I lacto-ferment beets. For this, you will need 4 medium-sized beets, as well as half a teaspoon of sea salt, 2 tablespoons of whey, which is the liquid that is extracted from yogurt or filtered from yogurt, and you will also need filtered water. Apart from the ingredients, you will also need a 1-liter mason jar. So put in all of the peeled, steamed, and cut beets into the 1-liter mason jar. And then in your 1 cup of filtered water, add half a teaspoon of sea salt. It doesn't matter which kind of sea salt. Sometimes I use Himalayan. And you can also add your 2 tablespoons of whey into the glass of water, and then you want to mix that brine. So you want to mix the water, salt, and whey solution and add it to your jar of beets. If you run out of water and your beets are not covered, then you can add more water, which is what I did here. To keep the beets submerged, you can add in weight. This is a weight that is specifically purchased for this purpose. If you don't have that, there is always another option. This is the other option. So you can get a Ziploc bag, fill it with water, and push it into your mason jar to make sure that no beets come up to the surface. This is an aerator, which you don't need. If you don't have this aerator, just simply do not tighten your lid so that carbon dioxide can exit. If you do have the aerator, you can tighten your lid. So inspect the bottle. Make sure that there are no air bubbles. You can shake it around to make sure that there are no air bubbles. You can see that the air bubbles are coming up as I move the bottle around. That's an air bubble right there. That's another air bubble. So I shake it around until that air bubble is completely gone, as you can see. So you let that ferment for 3 days on your countertop, and 3 days later, you open it, you remove the weight. So I had put the weight as well as the Ziploc bag. You don't need both. It was just to demonstrate. So you remove your weight, and if there are any beets that are out in the surface, they might appear a little white. So the areas that were out would be white. So you would remove that. You would remove those beets. And you would remove the aerator if you used one, put in the lid of the mason jar and close the jar tightly, and you would place that in your fridge. So in your fridge, this can now last a few weeks. I mean, I go through it pretty quickly, but I'm sure it could even last a month. The lactic acid is a natural preservative. So as I mentioned in part 1 of these 2 pregnancy series, the food that we consume during pregnancy should be nutrient dense, and nutrient dense food is normally animal products. And I will emphasize it once again, I am not referring to supermarket meat. I am referring to meat that you purchase from a farmer's market, from stores that sell meat directly from, or animal products directly from farmers, or even online farms. There are farms online that actually will ship you animal products straight from their farm. So those are the grass-fed, pasture-raised animal products that I am referring to, and they are the most nutrient-dense food that you can find. So that is why this whole video and the previous video has such an emphasis on animal products, is because it's highly important that we consume nutrient-dense food during pregnancy. The reason why I went over that again is because I will be going into the remainder of the food groups, starting with vegetables and fruits. But before I go into it, I want you to understand that vegetables and fruits only have a fraction of the nutrients per gram that you would get from animal products. But they are a good source of folate, vitamin C, and magnesium, so we should still include them in our diet. But I want the emphasis to be on animal products. So when we are consuming vegetables and fruits, other than fermenting them, we should be pairing them with a healthy fat. That could be butter, cream, coconut oil, and that is because a healthy fat actually helps us absorb the nutrients from the vegetables and the fruits. If you have digestive problems, you can cook foods that are high in fiber, like leafy greens, or fruits that are high in pectin, such as apples, peaches, and pears, so that it makes it more digestible. And as always, choose organic produce whenever possible, because herbicides and pesticides have been shown to disrupt hormonal imbalance, which would negatively impact the development of the baby. What's interesting is I actually only had one craving during my pregnancy, and it was for fruit, specifically for oranges. And I believe that we normally have cravings when there is some sort of a deficiency in our body, and that's a way of our body telling us that we are missing some sort of nutrient that is in that food. So for me, it was likely that I was deficient of vitamin C. Since I was eating meat and taking liver supplements, I probably needed the additional vitamin C in order to absorb all of the iron that I was getting. If you watched my first pregnancy video, then you would know that I was actually anemic prior to my pregnancy. And when they did my blood work during my 3rd trimester, my iron levels were beyond amazing. And so the iron that I was taking in was probably more than my body was used to prior to pregnancy, and that's probably why I required that additional vitamin C in order to digest that iron. And I did listen to my body. I ate oranges. I pretty much ate it every day along with the liver supplements. And I think that is why my iron levels were good, was likely because my vitamin C intake was also helping me absorb the iron that I was consuming. Lastly, grains, legumes, and nuts. They should all be sprouted or fermented prior to consumption, and that's because they are high in anti-nutrients like phytic acid and oxalic acid, which block the absorption of minerals and other nutrients and could lead to mineral deficiencies. So by fermenting them, we allow bacteria and enzymes to pre-digest these anti-nutrients, which makes them bioavailable, neutralizes the toxins, as well as increases the vitamin and mineral content in those foods. So this means we should be fermenting grains. We should be soaking legumes for an extended period of time prior to cooking them. So they should also be cooked. And we should be sprouting and dehydrating nuts. So you may want to jump on that sourdough craze that's going on right now. I know that it probably started because people ran out of yeast at the supermarket because of Corona. But I'm actually glad that this is happening because I'm glad people are experimenting with sourdough, as it is a healthier option of eating grains, as it pre-digests a lot of the anti-nutrients that are in grains. Apart from sourdough bread, our very own injera is also a type of sourdough bread and is healthy if it is made the traditional way, which is only including water and teff, or any other grain is fine, but as long as it doesn't have any of the other additives and other self-risers and all types of things that are being added currently to injera that we buy at the supermarket. If it's the way that it was traditionally made, which is fermenting water and teff to make ersho, and then just using teff and water for the remainder of your years making the injera from that ersho, then that is pretty much sourdough bread, and it is likely not to cause any upset stomach, bloating, and gas because it's being digested by our bodies and assimilated much easily compared to any other breads that we would be consuming. Let me know if you are interested in seeing a video on how to make a teff only injera, because that's pretty much what I've been making now at home. And so if you're interested, let me know and I will make a video as to how I make it. So that concludes everything that you should be consuming. And what should you be avoiding? Basically what you should always be avoiding. So apart from supermarket meat and non-organic produce, you should always avoid processed foods and fried foods. And that is because it is high in trans fats as well as partially hydrogenated oils. And these have been linked to multiple health conditions such as abnormal neurological development, heart disease, learning disabilities, diabetes, as well as hormonal imbalances. Even if the label says 0 trans fat, I would still err on the side of caution because companies are not obligated to disclose trans fat that is less than 0.5 gram of trans fat per serving. And so if they make the serving small, then the percentage of trans fat would also go down, and they may not have to, in that case, they wouldn't have to disclose it if it's under 0.5 gram. So just be on this, err on the side of caution, and do not consume processed food or fried foods. Vegetable oils from corn, soy, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, grapeseed, canola should also be avoided. Instead, you should cook with olive oil or coconut oil. And that's because these vegetable oils contain fragile fatty acids that are damaged through high heat. So when we are cooking with them, we are damaging them, and they release free radicals, which are linked to cancer and a whole bunch of other health conditions. Refined sweeteners such as sugar, yes, that includes brown sugar, as well as high fructose corn syrup and agave should also be avoided. Their consumption has been linked to diabetes, heart disease, endocrine issues, digestive issues, skin problems, bone decay, infertility, and a whole bunch of other problems. So we should stay away from refined sweeteners. When I say this, I am not saying go out there and consume artificial sweeteners either, because that is also not healthy and has been linked to neurological abnormalities as well as reduced immunity. So instead, we can consume raw honey or 100% maple syrup. In addition, processed grains such as white flour, as well as all of the products that come from it, such as bread, pasta, crackers, pastry, cookies, cake, should also be avoided during pregnancy. And that is because it has been bleached and depleted of all of its nutrients. And they likely also contain everything else I just listed, which is trans fats, hydrogenated oils, vegetable oils, sugar, artificial sweeteners, and probably a whole bunch of other additives. So I would stay away. Soy products should also be avoided, and that's because they are high in anti-nutrients like phytic acid, as well as enzyme inhibitors, and phytoestrogen is also anti-fertility. So if you're watching this video in preparation for pregnancy and you have not yet conceived and you are consuming soy products, I would eliminate it from my diet just to be on the safe side. And of course, all other additives, which are artificial coloring, flavors, MSG, emulsifiers, thickeners, all of those should be eliminated. Be careful with MSG because it can be disguised under different names. It can be found under ingredients under the names of hydrolyzed vegetable protein or yeast extract or even natural flavors. So be careful with that one. In addition, tap water containing chlorine, fluorine, and other chemicals should also be avoided. Instead, it's recommended to drink filtered water. Lastly, microwaved or irradiated foods. And that's because it destroys the nutrients and it makes fats rancid. As for the things that should be avoided specifically during pregnancy, as mentioned in the first pregnancy video, I would stay away from soft cheese because it contains the Listeria bacteria, which could be quite harmful. Caffeine should also be avoided, and that's because it is linked to nutrient depletion as well as adrenal fatigue. And so with a depleted adrenal, mothers will then pull adrenal hormones from the fetus, leaving the baby with a compromised adrenal. Adrenal hormones regulate blood pressure, blood sugar, stress response, metabolism, as well as mineral absorption. And so it's important that we have a baby that has proper adrenal functioning, and we do not want to take adrenal hormones from them prenatally. And it goes without saying that smoking, alcohol, and the use of recreational drugs should also be avoided during, before, and after pregnancy. Whew. So I could literally go on and on about this, but I will stop here. I know that this is a lot of information. I hope that it was helpful. If anything I said was not clear, please let me know in the comment section below. I really appreciate all of your suggestions and feedback, and I'm looking forward to getting more from you. If you liked this video, then please share with your friends and family, and subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you are informed when the next video gets uploaded. Have a wonderful day.